Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, the Bronson Sky Library. So today, for this video, I thought I would give you guys a book series review for the Drowning Empire series by Andrea Stewart. It consists of The Bone Shard Daughter as the first book, then it goes the Bone Shard Emperor, and then the Bone Shard War. And yeah, so I just barely completed the series, and I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on the series, and if it's something you guys want to read, then yay. If it doesn't interest you, then oh well. But anyway, I had mentioned that I thought that this series might become a new favorite of mine. I don't know if it is a new favorite of mine or if it's just a really great series that I really, really enjoyed. We'll just have to see my thoughts later down the road with this, since it's still kind of fresh in my mind. Like, I don't know, the books that are my favorites are just the ones that stay with me throughout the years, so Mistborn, Stormlight, Percy Jackson, those kind of series that just stay with me. So I don't know if this one's gonna just like stay with me or not. But anyway, for the book series review, I thought I would give you some pros, and then some cons, and then some pros, and then some cons, and then some pros, and then pros, and then pros. So anyway, that is what the video's about today. Anyway, so let's get on into the review. So the first pro I would say is that this series is very, very unique. So what this story is about, it starts out with this girl named Lynn. She is the daughter of the Emperor, and that's why it's called the Bone Shard Daughter, is because there's this magic system that has to do with, like, bones. They take, like, shards of bone from people around the Empire, and they construct these constructs, and these, like, animal-like type things, and they put commands on these shards, and then they put it into this construct, and like they come alive, and those commands command them to do things, basically. So anyway, her father knows that magic, and so that's why it's called the Bone Shard Daughter, because she's the daughter of the Emperor, who happens to know that magic. Anyway, so that's super unique. So that's why this is a pro, is because, like, the magic system is so, again, unique. Words. Anyway, so at the beginning of this book, Lynn has forgotten all of her memories, and so she's trying to remember her memories. She's trying to remember. And so that is another pro to this story, is that it's unique while also being very intriguing. There's this mystery element to it that I really, really enjoyed. And another part of that mystery element is that in the book, there are islands drowning. Like, whole islands are drowning, and so people are dying and trying to get far away from these islands because they start to drown. And so that's another mystery element to this story that I really enjoyed, especially in the first book. And the second and the third, because we don't know why they're drowning until we get to the end of the series. So anyway, that was a really cool mystery element to it, and I just think that Andrea Stewart did such a wonderful job at bringing that intrigue and that mystery to it, especially in the first book. Which brings me to a con, is that I felt like this series the quality of writing didn't go down, but it just kind of lost that intrigue and that mystery element from book to book. Because in the first book, you're trying to figure out why Lynn lost her memories. You're trying to figure out what her memories are. You're trying to figure out what's happening to these islands. You're trying to figure out, there's another character named Jovis, and he's trying to find his wife, and you're trying to figure out who and what happened to his wife. Not who she is, but what happened to her. And then there's another character who is like stuck on this island somewhere, and this character is starting to get memories and she's trying to figure out like why she's on this island doing the same thing every single day. And so it's very, very intriguing, and it has that mystery. But then when it comes to like the second and the third book, that mystery element is not there. And so that's a con, in my opinion, is like I don't get as much intrigue from each book, which is something that I absolutely loved about the first book, but I didn't get it in like the second and third, especially the third. Didn't get it as much in the third book. I felt like the third book, it was great. It was a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. I loved the ending of the third book, but the third book was just kind of a hit or miss. So another thing about the writing, this is another pro, is that it's a multiple POV story, and so we have a couple of POVs that are written in first person, and then a few POVs that are written in third person. And you would think like that's definitely a con, Rachel. Why do you think that's a pro? But it really, the way that Andrea Stewart writes, it actually doesn't feel like it's super choppy or anything. It just flows so nicely. You can't even tell that there are a couple POVs in first person and then a few POVs in third person. You really can't tell. I mean, you obviously can see that there are characters in first and some in third, but just as you like get into the flow of reading it, you just kind of stop noticing. Actually, you don't even notice from the beginning. So it's not that you stop noticing. It's just that like you just didn't notice in the first place. I don't know. It's just, it flowed super nicely, and it continued to flow nicely with those POVs in first and third throughout the series. So the first book, second book, third book, fantastic. She did that very, very well, I think. So that aspect of her writing was fantastic. I loved that, and that was so cool. Another thing that I absolutely loved about this series was that the characters are pretty well fleshed out and developed, I think. I mean, there were some characters that I liked their arc better than others. I really enjoyed Lynn's arc throughout the series. I thought that was really, really cool to see her go from, like, a girl who was honestly kind of scared, and because she had lost her memories, and so this girl who had lost her memories, trying to figure out, and like she lost a ton of memories, and so it was really cool to see her go from this girl who doesn't know to this strong girl who is like badass, you know? Like it was, I just really liked Lynn's arc a lot. And then I really liked Jovis's. His arc in the third book wasn't the best. It wasn't as good as I think other characters were, but I really still enjoyed his arc. And then, but the characters that I absolutely loved the arcs for were Falou and Renami. Mostly Falou, because like Falou and Renami, they were characters in like the first and second books that you just didn't really like. At least I didn't like them. I didn't like them all that much, but I soon began to love them when I got into the third book. Their arcs were phenomenal, I think, from like since book 1 to book 3. I thought Andrea Stewart did them great. Yeah. A con, I would say, to go along with characters is that the villains aren't that great. The villains aren't fun. maybe fun isn't the right word, but the villains aren't villainy enough, I feel like. They were just kind of there, honestly. They were just there for the story, and I wish that we could have gotten cooler villains. But I mean, they worked in a way, not completely, but yeah, they were just kind of villains to be villains. So that's something that I wish would have been a little more fleshed out. Something that I didn't like about the third book was that, so in the first book, all of the characters are just kind of they're separated. They don't know who each other are yet, and which happens in almost like every first book. But yeah, and then in the second book, they kind of all come together and they finally learn who each other are, and I really liked the dynamic between Lynn and Jovis in the second book. But then in the third book, they kind of separate them again, especially like Lynn and Jovis, and I just didn't like that. And it took so long for them to get back to like meet back up again. It just, I don't know, it just kind of like, it just took too long. Especially because, okay, so the second book, so the first book, at the end of the first book, and then the beginning of the second book, they are very close together. There's not a huge time jump. It's maybe like a month or two, maybe. I don't even know. But there's not a big time jump at all. It basically picks up immediately. And then between the second book and the third book, there's like 2 years. There's a 2-year jump time. And I'm like, why? I just didn't really like that because, like, I don't know. And so then having like Lynn and Jovis separated for so long, I just didn't like it. It took almost the whole book for them to meet back up again, and I don't like that. But yeah, so that's something that I didn't like, was that time skip from book 2 to book 3. I just felt like it was kind of unnecessary. And yeah, so there's that. But other than all of those cons, this series was, I think, fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it, like, quite a bit. I don't know if it's like one of my favorites, but it might be. We'll see. I do think that the books kind of, so the first book was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I devoured it. The second book, I think, is on par to the first book. I think it was also fantastic. The third book, hit or miss. But the ending was fantastic, I think. I really, really enjoyed the ending of that series. And it kind of tore my heartstrings out. So there is that for you. But yes, anyway, so that is my review, my series review for the series. Hopefully you guys gained something out of this review. If you guys want to check it out, I highly recommend this series. I think it's intriguing and unique, and it's really cool because Andrea Stewart, it's her debut series, and I think she did a fantastic job for this to be her debut series, especially the first book. Like, geez, like that first book and the second book. I just think she did a really, really wonderful job with her debut series. So I think you guys should check it out. If you guys liked this video, like it. Yeah, just do all those things. Anyway, so I will see you guys in my next video. Alright, bye!